Hello and welcome to another edition of Video Games to the Max. I am your host, Sean Garmer. Here with me, as usual, Mr. Marc Morrison.
Howdy.
And this is episode 451 of the podcast. And, it's the elephant in the room, folks. We talked about it last week that it was probably happening, and it has officially happened. The Microsoft layoffs, 9,100 people as of this recording. Many of those on various departments in Xbox. We'll talk about that. Marc has more to talk about with Death Stranding 2. I've gotten to Act 3 of Clair, Obscur, Expedition 33 finally. Helldivers 2 is also coming to Xbox, which they did it like the next day, so it's like they're trying to do the hey, don't even think about what just happened. Let's look at the nice things. Look, it's a smokescreen, folks. It is what it is. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Nintendo has more movies, not just the two that are officially announced, and some other things to discuss. So we'll get into all that and more right after this.
You are listening to Video Games to the Max.
All right, so let's go ahead and get the housekeeping out of the way here very quickly. You can watch us live around 9 o'clock on Mondays, 9 o'clock Eastern, that is, 6 o'clock Pacific, on the YouTube channel, W2 Network. Or you can watch it later on demand if you want. As soon as we finish recording, it is there for you to watch. You can also just check it out on podcasts as well. To search Video Games to the Max, find it, listen to it, give us a review, subscribe, like, follow, all that stuff. If you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you get the other stuff that's part of the W2 Network as well, which is great because it's not just what we do here at Video Games to the Max. We have other things that get reviewed as well. So if you like movies, TV shows, the Relish Broadcasting folks do a great job doing that every week. Pretty much any like big movie that comes out, they have a review. They also do it on Mondays, so you can pretty much listen, watch. Tuesday morning, you get up, you get our episode, and you also get, like today they're doing the Jurassic World Rebirth review. And then also, if you like anime, that summer anime season, which is absolutely packed with stuff between returning shows like Dandadan and new stuff. Otaku Cafe has you covered there. They got a big road ahead of them to cover all that stuff. So make sure that's another big reason to check us out as well if you like the anime side of things. So, yeah. Check us out, whether it's podcasts, videos on YouTube later. You can watch some of the folks live on Twitch as well, W10 Network there. So, yeah, whatever. You can even check out shorts, whether it's me or Mr. Radlich talking about things. We do those as well on the YouTube channel. So, but all right, going ahead and getting into let's talk about something on the side here. Did you do anything for your 4th of July?
No, I just had a friend over, and my neighborhood sounded like Beirut for a while. How about you?
I had to work on 4th of July since it was on a Friday. So I was, and you can't do fireworks because I live in a, enclosed community. But, it was also raining here. So it was like you can hear them at the racetrack that's pretty close to me. They usually they have a thing every year there that you can go for free at the Homestead Motor Speedway there. But it is what it is. Then kind of just had a chill Sunday after having 3 days straight of working. So it is what it is. Can't always celebrate all the holidays, unfortunately. But yeah, hopefully y'all did have a good 4th of July. Whether you celebrated, whether you just hung out and chilled at your house, hopefully that was a good one for you. I also just want to give because I know people that live in the area. Just thankfully it wasn't, it didn't affect my family, but I know people that live in the Central Texas area. Heart goes out to all the people that were affected by the floods that happened there. Just absolutely terrible. Especially what happened with like that girls' camp, the Camp Mystic thing. That was just absolutely like heart wrenching to hear. Just like my dad randomly messaged me. He was like, "I'm okay." I was like, "It didn't affect us here in Dallas, but he's like, we got family down in like San Antonio, Central Texas area that they said they're kind of going through it. So hopefully,
Right.
You and your family are safe if you're there, and But all right, let's get into actually talking about the games we're playing here before we get into the terrible news of the week. How far are you in Death Stranding 2, and are you still enjoying it?
Yeah, I'm in chapter 9. I assume Randy's probably way further than I am, but he's also cares about the story, so
Yeah.
he's advancing that. I don't, so I'm just kind of driving along. It's real. Like the two things I'll mention is it's real funny how easy the game is. Like one mission was like, oh, you gotta take over, or you gotta like drive through this enemy camp, and it's like, oh, I can use an assault rifle, and my truck has an assault rifle that auto targets, so that makes it real easy,
Yeah.
And I can run people over, and they don't die, but they go down, and then my machine gun, or the truck gun can take care of them pretty easily. And there is a fight in I think it's chapter 7, I think, that might be the most overblown, self-indulgent thing I've ever seen in a video game.
Why do you say that?
Like, it would have been cheaper and easier if Kojima was just like beating off in a video for 10 minutes. It's like so indulgent. It's like, oh my god, get over yourself.
Oh, I mean, but he's an auteur. He is overindulgent. I mean, wasn't that an issue with Metal Gear Solid 5 as well? Like that Stranding 1 also had very many
I remember 5. I remember 5 had the stupid like fire horse. I remember 4 had kind of that problem with Johnny, and I forget the girl's name, Meryl, and like the super like violent deaths. Well, they didn't even die. They just got shot like 900 times, and then they survived. And it's like, what? This tops it, and like self-indulgence, and it's like, oh my god, like this is more evidence that he should never become a movie director. But yeah, gameplay's still good. I've gotten into like the snowy areas, so it's a little more harder because they you slide down quite easily especially the truck. So but yeah, I'll keep playing at it. I don't know, I probably won't beat it by like next week, but I'll keep plugging away at it. And I think there's like 17 chapters, so I'm like halfway through, or a little over halfway, which I guess is all right. But yeah, I still like it.
Yeah, that's the important part.
Yeah.
Anything like new that you've discovered for it?
Not really. No. Yeah. I mean, one mission was like, oh, take out these air enemies. I forget what they're called. Not BBs, because that's like the stupid baby. Like the zombie things.
But
BTs?
It's like,
oh, they're in the BTs. Yeah, they're like in the air, and they're like the kind of floating jellyfishes. And it's like, yo, I have a truck that can auto fire. Like, how is this a mission? Like,
right?
That's kind of the funny part. So yeah, I just rode over, and my truck took care of them all, and I rode back, and it's like, oh, you get an S rank if you get no damage. And I'm like, yeah. How could you get damage? If you think you did this like on your own, you might, but still, like, they don't move fast. Like, they're just basically hovering in the air, and the only thing they do is land. But they still don't like move toward you or attack you. So, and yeah, it's repeated boss fights, which is a little unfortunate, I would say. I guess the boss is kind of cool. It's like this like robot mech octopus thing, but like
right.
seems kind of cheap, or like couldn't do something else. But yeah, I still like it.
Well, so was the first one not as easy as this, or
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Like you don't get stuff. You eventually do get a lot of the same stuff, but like it's like, oh, you finally get a gun like 10 missions in, or you finally get the truck like 40 missions, 30 missions in or something. And this one, it's like, you start with a gun, and you get the motorcycle like 3 missions in, you get the truck about 9, and then you just use that all the way through.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still good, but I like it more than the first one, rather. Sorry, because I'm actually able to stay with this one.
Right. Yeah. Hey, that makes a difference too. That he definitely improved things from the first game that people didn't like.
The only thing I wish it did. So like, there's this big monorail system around Australia that you can like restore,
right.
Which is helpful because you can use it to like get around bases pretty quickly. And you have to like repair part of the track system. And I wish there was like a sonar pulse or like some sensor pulse that you could just like, okay, it's like, I know that this thing is in this area somewhere. I wish you could just like fire off a pulse. It could tell me where it is.
Right.
More importantly, tell you when I need to fix it. So I don't need to like find it, see it needs 400 resin and 300 special alloys. Then go back to like whatever base is closest, stock up, and then go back out there again.
Right.
It's like there's a fair amount of busy work, like intentionally in this game.
Well, some people would say that at least it helps kind of divvy up the gameplay a little bit.
Not really.
But Randy didn't tell me which chapter he's in, but he says that he is going through the story, and then he also has times where he's playing, where he's just delivering packages and connecting roads
and like
and
network,
things like that.
Yeah, right.
So
it holds up pretty well.
Hey, that's the important part. I'm glad you're enjoying it at least. So
yep.
All right, I've anything else you want to?
Nah, not really.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, like, have you seen a Switch 2 out in the wild at all?
Honestly, I haven't been to. The only store I've been to is the grocery store, Walmart.
Okay,
so
and they don't have
I wouldn't be able to tell you, if there is one at the Walmart close to me or not.
I keep looking. I'm always just curious because they keep saying like, "Oh, stock is better," or it's much better than the Switch one.
I just saw today Wario 64 was putting up that on Walmart's website they had the bundle available. So
I think online it might be true, but like not in store.
Right.
Reminds me of like the PS5 when that launched. Like it is barely in stores, pretty much.
Yeah. I think that was more like it is. It does seem to be like depending on which location, right?
Right.
Especially, but that's the thing. It wasn't even available like online. Remember, like for the most part, unless you were monitoring Sony's store, which is how I got mine, like 2 weeks after it launched. There was no stock at all in stores,
right?
And if there was, it was a madhouse to go to whatever Walmart had it because there was already going to be a line before you even thought about going there. Whereas the Switch 2, there's a lot of people that say they can just. Yes, I do see a lot of signs that people go to the electronics section and they're buying something else for the Switch 2, or they're buying something else and they have the sign that says no Switch 2s or whatever. But I do see where there's people that they walk in and there's 2 or 3 Switch 2s. So it's just really the area, and it does seem to be way more available online. I constantly see, it feels like daily there's a post about, hey, the Switch 2 bundle went up, or the Switch 2's up, and so it feels like it is way more available than the PS5 and even the Series X was. So that's positive. That's good for Nintendo. As the inevitable summer Nintendo Direct is probably going to happen here. whether it's before Donkey Kong or after Donkey Kong releases. We'll see. Which that is coming up in about 10 days now. The first big single player game for the Switch 2, the Donkey Kong Bonanza. So,
Right.
I'm excited for that. Kind of counting down the days to have that to play. Which is, why I kind of taken the opportunity instead of like what I would normally do, which is like, oh, there is stuff on Game Pass to play, that I could play or whatever. I was just like, let me go back and see if I can finish Clair Obscur before we get to Donkey Kong, and then I don't play it probably.
Right.
So, I wanted to get to that and just be done with it. And so I was able to get through the end of Act 2, fight the Paintress and all of that. That was such a cool like story moment when you finally get to that. And now I'm in Act 3, just kind of doing the same thing I did with Rebirth, where I'm gonna probably do as much side stuff as I possibly can, because I know I'm not going to come back to it to do it later before I fight whatever the final boss is. Just to avoid spoilers for people that like Randy, who might be checking in and hasn't made any more progress. He's playing Death Stranding too, but yeah, I really love the fact of like how much there's a lot of games that do this, obviously, but it didn't feel necessarily that way that much in Rebirth because of how much some of the battle system is dependent on how good you are as a person, right? And the whole like action combat stuff. And this one obviously does have that as well with the dodging and parrying, but really the dodging window is so open that I just got to the point where I got kind of tired of trying to do the parries, because I was like, you know what, I just want to get through this. And so I just started dodging, but my characters do so much damage because I had him at like level 55 that it really felt like, okay, all that time that was worth it, like going back and forth, killing just random enemies and stuff like that, and doing the many optional bosses I could when I'm like kind of roaming the map, kind of is worth it. And I appreciate that about the game. So
the fact that you can also like fly.
Yeah, well, I haven't gotten to the flying part with Esquier, so I'm still swimming around. That I think, like Act 3, you finally get the
that's like the first thing you do with Act 3 is you get him, or he learns like
flying. So now I'm gonna do a bunch of the ones that I've been like, okay, well, how do I get there? How do I get there? And then I gotta like look up, like, oh, you have to be able to fly to that. Like, okay, so I can just go and do Act 2 now because I can't really do anything else. So I'm excited to get to that, finish it, and I've just been, again, it keeps proving why it is my game of the year right now, and just more and more, the more time I get to sit with it, that soundtrack is absolutely just bonkers, awesome.
Once you hit Act 3, like you're kind of given free reign, and it's like, well, you can do a bunch of side stuff, or you can just go to the end. I would recommend that part because like that last boss is a little tough, but
yeah, I've heard that you can kind of beat him at that level that I'm at, but I was just like, let me just go ahead and get more stuff done, see if I can find anything else story-wise is interesting too. And
I mean, there's at least 2 like side bosses that are like really story critically important, but they're optional. So like I know Jens didn't even try.
I don't know, maybe if Randy finishes it, before we get to the end of the year, when we can do like a spoiler cast or something and talk about the story.
You only have 5 months to go.
Yeah, I'll talk to him and see how he feels about doing that. I won't make it the big huge thing that Rebirth was, that we don't need to have 7 people on. That was after I tried to go back and watch it, and I was like, I love all these people. I thought we had a good conversation, but it did feel very long after a while because you're having to cycle through 7 people. But all right, that's the only game that I've really been kind of playing. So I guess we should no longer delay the inevitable here. The Microsoft layoffs, which they were majorly affected Xbox, not as much as I thought they were going to. The rumors going into after we did the podcast were like, this is going to be catastrophic. Like, this is going to be every single studio is going to be affected, and we're really going to see the, things not panning out, how it's going to affect. And really, a lot of what happened seems to be it's affecting majorly things that haven't come out yet. That they don't have a planned date, and then some other ones that kind of make sense in a way. Still terrible, regardless of people losing jobs. I don't want to make light of that at all. I hate that people are having to lose jobs. That's always terrible in this industry. I know it seems it's happened so much that people kind of gloss over it at this point. And I don't blame people if they do, just because it feels like every freaking week we're talking about somebody laying off somebody. But I mean, after we had the ones with EA, and then we had the ones with Warner Brothers, and Microsoft's already done some other ones this year. I mean, they have like 15,000 employees or something that they've laid off this year, which is a ridiculous number. But a lot of tech companies are going through layoffs as well. It's not just gaming. As everybody goes to that race to AI kind of thing, where it's like, well, if we're investing in AI, why do we need to have so many people? We'll see if that winds up backfiring on them or not. It's funny. I went to a Wendy's on Saturday when my girlfriend picked me up, and we had to talk into an AI. Normally I use the app to order, so I don't even have to talk to them, but they had the AI thing where you talk to the AI to order. And it's just really jarring. It did the order really well. I'm just saying, it's just so really jarring to talk to a computer.
I mean, I went to a Sonic over last week, and it sucked ass. So
it's just
he got one up on me. Like, it took him like 40 minutes to get my order.
Yeah, the Checkers also does. Like, the Checkers near me also does, but they've been doing it for a while. They have the AI ordering thing,
right?
Too. So, but we'll get into the AI, because this is very multifaceted. This whole thing with the layoffs. But let me just kind of get through, I guess, the nuts and bolts, even though this is really almost like 5 days old for most people. So if you're kind of in the know, you already know about this, but I'm going to kind of go over the nuts and bolts of it, just because that way we can get it out there, and then we can kind of talk about wherever you want to go from there. So, okay. According to the Seattle Times, about 4%, or roughly 9,100 people of the company's total employees across all departments, including gaming, have been affected. Phil Spencer had one of the most tone-deaf write-ups that he did to kind of tell employees that, it's not your fault, nothing to do with you guys. We just had to do this. We had to make cuts. But hey, all of our stuff is doing great. There's people haven't stopped playing games. More hours haven't been played. Our portfolio looks awesome. We have so many projects in development. It's like, yo, these people just got fired. Like, they don't want to hear that shit. Right. Like, did you forget that you're sending a letter out to the employees, and you kind of put out something for the investors too while you're in there? Like, I don't know why you couldn't have made two. One for the employees and one for the investors. Like, that just seems kind of rather very just, I don't know. It's like Phil comes off as this guy that really cares. And then you write stuff like that, and it's just like, man, did somebody just hand you that and tell you, okay, you need to sign this and put this out? Like, it's weird.
See, Phil never seemed like a guy who cares. He always seemed kind of like a robot in this kind of,
Well, that too, but I'm just saying, he does, really, he's very personable. He speaks about the different games and studios, and he is a gamer. It's not like other corporate folks like Andrew Wilson and Kotick that they don't play games. They are just the corporation person.
Honestly, I'd rather have that. I'd rather have someone who's just not interested, as opposed to some guy, who fake or not, he's still laying off thousands of people. And
it's not his call at the end of the day, but still he has to do what Satya, Nadella, Amy Hood, and all the people that love him tell him to do. As crappy as that is, we don't know how much bartering goes on behind the scenes of what he fought for. If he fought for anybody not to get part of the layoffs, did Satya just straight up just go find the things that you feel are going to save us money in this section, whatever you feel like needs to be cut, you do that, and then we'll go over it. I don't know how that went. Obviously, I don't work there, so but
a lot less people work there now. So
yes, that too. Unfortunately, according to Bloomberg, King, which obviously makes Candy Crush, has cut 10% of its staff, so about 200 people. ZeniMax has been going through job cuts. They had an MMO that was in development, which we kind of knew about because there was this thing of the Elder Scrolls Online devs have been talking about they have something else happening that they're really excited about.
Right.
But nobody ever said it didn't have a name. I just had a Project Blackbird. Supposedly Phil Spencer loved the crap out of that game and would not stop playing it. And somehow that was made as one of the cuts, I guess, because they had no idea of when it was going to come out. So they probably felt it was a better thing to cut that instead of cutting something that they do have an idea of when it's going to come out. There are also an unnumbered amount of people at Undead Labs, State of Decay 3 people that have been laid off. There's a percentage of Raven Studios and Sledgehammer that are working on Black Ops 7 right now. Raven is, at least, with Treyarch. So that's weird that you're cutting people from a game that you're actually working on. Forza Motorsport, the Turn 10 studio, is the one that got affected the most, aside from the ones that were heavily hit. That they cut half of their staff. So 50% of the employees are gone. They basically retained enough people to continue to work on Forza Motorsport, since that's pretty much just a live service thing at this point. We could talk about that in a little bit because there's probably other things to go along with that. And then the big ones are Rare had Everwild be canceled completely.
Yep.
And this is after Phil Spencer, shortly before, I think a month before, he was on the Xbox Era podcast, and he said that Everwild is doing well and that they're happy they can give these games the time to be in development or whatever. But that game has been in development for 10 years at this point. And it's gone through 2 different, we don't know what it is.
Right.
They recently announced that they found the game loop not too long ago. And this is after they showed that trailer that was looked like it could be a cozy adventure game with animals. I don't know. We have no idea. They just never told us, oh, this is what the game is. So, okay, that kind of makes sense. This game is going nowhere. So whatever, cut it. But then as a part of that, Greg Males, who's been with the company for almost 20 years, is gone. He's one of the lead art designers. And then someone else is also gone as part of that as well, which is crazy that you're losing people that have been there a very long time, because at this point, I don't blame them, whether it's they decided to leave or they were cut. What other game are they going to work on besides Sea of Thieves at this point? So now they're stuck doing Sea of Thieves, and who knows if they're going to get it developed something else. Same thing with the ZeniMax Online people. Now they're stuck doing Elder Scrolls Online until whenever. Which I wonder how well those are doing. Obviously those are live service things that you can count on, but you'd have to imagine, along with Fallout 76, those are modest numbers. Those are not crazy. Yeah.
At least Fallout 76 can get some bump by the TV show.
Well, and then Sea of Thieves did get a big bump when it went to PS5.
Right.
So, there's that as well on that end. The bigger one, and probably the most, I would say, damning one, is the Initiative being closed completely, along with Perfect Dark being canceled. This is a studio that they started on their own in 2018. So we're talking about the studio's been around for almost 7 years at this point.
Yeah.
It started with Dale Gallagher, the former Crystal Dynamics boss. Then it was a revolving door of people because it was supposed to be a quadruple A studio at one point. It was a revolving door of people for a while, and then finally they said they were working on Perfect Dark. Things had kind of quieted down, and then last year they showed off that tech demo, for the lack of a better word, because depending on who you talk to, that was either all fake, all pre-rendered, some gameplay, some pre-rendered, whatever. It basically seems like it was a shot at, hey, we're doing something, so please don't cancel it. Like, we're just letting you know that we're cooking here. Please. And it did get a lot of buzz. Like, people were excited about it. I was excited about it.
Yeah.
They turned Perfect Dark into an immersive sim. Were you kind of excited?
Yeah, it looked good. I mean, it did look kind of fake, but it's not. They didn't say this is gameplay, or they didn't say like, oh, here's mission 4 out of this thing. Like, it's more like a vibe trailer, or it's like, this is what we're kind of hoping to get to, or
Yeah, this is what we want the game to eventually look like.
Believe me, there are much faker trailers out there. So.
Sure. It's just Matt Booty had his own statement that pretty much reads like every other thing that they ever say when you do these things. Like, oh, we got to make these changes to adjust our priorities, be more nimble, all that kind of crap.
Yeah, he's like being more agile. It's like you'll never be agile, because the bigger a company gets, the less agile it can never be.
Yeah, regardless of how many people you let go, you still have all these studios.
And it's like, tell that, like, let's see how agile, like, a speedboat is compared to the Titanic.
Yeah, at least he didn't talk about numbers like Phil did, but still, it's just, it kind of rings hollow at that point. Yeah. The bigger thing that like stands out to me is just like, did y'all not see this earlier? Like, I understand that you're letting these people cook or whatever, but it just feels like, I think even Phil has said it too, it's like, this is too big of a task for Matt Booty, like for one person to oversee all of these studios. And then we don't know how much, we know Phil goes to studios himself as well. And then, he goes and does, he did the deal with Koei Tecmo and Team Ninja for Ninja Gaiden 4, like, and that's all cool and everything, but it's just like, could you have made this less of a pain if you had been able to see this earlier and then gone and just kind of counted your losses previously, so you're not having to let go as many people. You're not having to close the entire studio down, because this is your own studio that you formed, and then you just close it down because, well, we're not going to have them spin up something else that's going to take 7 years to make. So that's another problem. It's just, how many of these things have been sitting there? Like, Compulsion supposedly started South of Midnight in 2018. Like, luckily, In Exile already had a trailer come out for something that looks pretty well, further in development, because they had like that 5-minute trailer that they showed.
Right.
Like, and that looked great and everything. But it's just like, man, why does everything have to take so long? And then, you end up killing it. And it's just, that doesn't look good, especially when, you can't get the big franchises to really do much either, you know. So it's like there's a bit of mismanagement there, that whether it's Matt Booty, whether it's Phil Spencer, there was some rumors going around for a while until Xbox actually put a thing on the Xbox Wire that Phil Spencer was going to retire. And then they refuted it and said that anybody saying that has just absolutely made that up. Which, you know, he's 57. So like that's not out of the realm to say that at some point this dude's going to retire.
Right.
Like, you know, like I'm sure he's hoping to get to kind of like Reggie did, where Reggie got to where the Switch came out and then he was like, okay, I'm going to call it a day. And, you know, maybe Phil Spencer's kind of has that as a goal to, I'll be 60 when the Xbox, whatever the heck it's going to be called, comes out. And now I can fully kind of just let this be Sarah Bond's thing and move on, you know?
Right.
Yeah, it's just interesting. Like, I understand that Phil's, you know, helped make them money with the cost them and helped them make them money with the Activision and Blizzard thing. And obviously Game Pass is, we'll talk about, you know, the devs that have, you know, brought up why is nobody talking about Game Pass thing, but you know, Game Pass went up with the addition of Call of Duty. It went up like 8%. And you know, it has added more subscriptions or whatever. It's still around that $35 million number, but that's still like recurring revenue that you're getting in constantly. So, you know, and with less and less of that, oh, I'm only paying $1 or it's free or whatever, because they stopped you from being able to stack it like that, and they don't offer that much anymore unless you buy something like the Xbox MetaQuest thing or whatever, where they have that 3 months free. But you know, the other thing too is also that's been kind of going, that's happened like a little bit after the layoffs were announced, is also they were funding Romero Games.
Yeah.
And even though they came out today and said that they are not officially shut down, they are like pretty much kind of trying to figure it out right now about what's going to happen so that people are not completely losing their jobs, but they are having to lay off people. And they did get their funding cut for the game that they were making. So essentially that game is canceled unless somebody comes in and like does an angel investing thing.
Well, you know, it's just in the back burner. Yeah, like other companies have gone through this before.
Right.
My specific problem, at least with the Romero stuff, is this is going to sound cold, but who cares? And I don't like, the team is one thing. I can disassociate them, but like John Romero and Brenda Romero haven't made like a game in 20 years or 25, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I think it's bonkers even for Microsoft to have funded that thing in the first place, because it's like, what the hell? Like the last game John Romero made, let me look it up, was
it's probably like they felt like they owed it to them because of the whole, they own the Doom studio now. And
I mean, John Romero made like basically 2 map packs for Doom, Sigil and Sigil 2, and like the last game they worked on together, like the last game that they put out was Empire of Sin.
Yeah.
Which is a really bad game. Like, so I mean, I think it's just crazy that they got funded in the first place. And it's like, yo, like you guys don't make anything. Like I'd be happier if they started funding some John Carmack problem, or you know, Carmack thing, and said, hey, you do something, because you've at least made a game in the past millennium that has like done well. Not
right. But it's like, more of like that, okay, this is a known name, like, okay, let's give them some funding. And I mean, I don't know how much funding it was particularly. And then like, hey, if they make something great, then yeah, we were the ones that funded it, you know? So I can kind of understand it from that point, but yes, from like based off of some of the other things, like especially like okay, as far as the people go, it sucks for the initiative, right? Like you were brought in, you're doing this, you're making this game.
I have a Facebook friend who was like the creative director on that Perfect Dark game.
Yeah, like that absolutely sucks. But
I-
I think for me, the bigger one is Rare because it kind of goes back to the whole mismanagement of Rare.
Yeah,
In
but
general.
that's been a
Yeah,
problem
like
since Microsoft acquired them. So
aside from like them lucking into Sea of Thieves becoming a huge thing, which it was not hit from the get-go. That took them a
right,
while to get that to be where it is now, where now they can essentially just kind of find the next pirate thing to put in there, and it
yeah,
will keep revolving itself. And they still have, I still say, like the moment that they ever get a One Piece collaboration, you're gonna bring in like I don't know how many people into that game. I might even give it a whirl if you do a One Piece thing, but like and it's something you can also play by yourself. You don't have to play with other people, so like that's something that has worked for them, but it sucks for the people there because I imagine that not everybody wants to work on Sea of Thieves forever, right? They wanted to have another game that they're working on, and it sucks that like Everwild just kind of meandered so long that it became something very easy for you to put down on the chopping block,
right.
And then you have the reports from the Seattle Times that said that a lot of essentially just saying that these cuts were made because Microsoft is investing heavily into AI, especially now that the OpenAI partnership is over, and that they're on the hook for making sure that ChatGPT continues to do their thing, and that they're ahead of the game in AI, especially when you got China kind of cutting you off at the knees at that. They're beating you at your own game, kind of thing. And obviously helps them not have to employ so many people when you can get machine learning to do a lot of these jobs as well. How much do you put on? How much do you think that is that an issue of they are kind of doing this in favor of AI?
It's a huge issue, but also the issue that Microsoft wants to be. They don't want to be a product company. They want to be a services company.
Right.
The problem is their services are all bad, except for Game Pass kind of the partial exception. But who the fuck? Would you rather pay $100 for Office or $200 for Office, for a lifetime, or $20 a month for the rest of your life?
Oh no, for Office? Hell no, bro.
Right.
Hell no.
And
Like,
Windows.
We
sucks.
come from a time where you could just go to the store, buy the disc that had all Office on it, and then that's it. You paid the $150 or whatever it was, and that's it. Now I get it that they're doing it because I can get your $20 and you're going to continue to subscribe. But honestly, bro, Google has Google Docs and Google Sheets. Like I don't need Office.
Or even Open Office. I like Office or Microsoft Word just because that's what I most know. But
exactly, I agree.
And also like all the AI crap. Like, how is this going to make you money in the long run?
Yeah, like now they're making it to where everybody has to use Copilot. Forcing that on people, and it's just
they keep threatening to. My computer keeps threatening to update to Windows 11.
Yeah, mine does that too.
And when it eventually does, so when I'm forced to, what I'm going to do is there are custom. You can basically create your own custom Windows 11 install that you can kind of pick and choose more granularly what you want to install. So it's I'm deleting Copilot and Cortana and all this other crap from Windows because I don't want it, and I will never want it. So
don't blame you. I really don't want it either. I've tried to avoid it for the life of ever since the first time it ever came on there. And just I was like, for one, I don't even know if my computer can run the thing, can really deal with the thing. So like that's why I've also kind of been trying to push for. Well, I kind of might as well get a new laptop, because I don't even know if my laptop that I have right now can deal with Windows 11.
Yours probably can, because I think it was like a year older than mine. The issue is, well, like my current one, like it came preloaded with Windows 11, and it was horrible. And after like 2 weeks, I went to Windows 10, and I've been with it since I got this thing like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. It's like, yeah, when the older version works better than the new one, like, yeah, that's an issue.
And it says a lot, because like that's partially the problem right now with Windows 11, is that like that's what's in all these Windows handhelds.
Right.
And everybody that I see that has one, all they can say is how much they can't stand.
Right. Yeah, Windows 11 blows.
Windows 11 because it's so bloated. And I mean, that is partially why Xbox is doing the whole, Xbox OS thing on there to try to kind of save Windows 11 from being a total scrap heap, especially now that like this is going to be the de facto operating system that some people are going to have to use, because Windows 10 is going to stop being supported. So, you might as well do something before you get the bulk of your people on there. And then they realize that it really sucks, to use. So, look, go ahead.
I was going to say, you claim that, or you were most depressed or disappointed about Rare.
Yeah.
I'm more down on the initiative. I mean, at least Perfect Dark looked interesting. Most of their crap kind of doesn't. And then also Turn 10. Like, they're basically ditching the whole motorsport franchise, or like sub-franchise. Because they're keeping
so essentially Turn 10 is going to be like continue to update the assets and things like that. They will make content for motorsport, which it didn't have the number because they essentially just wanted to make it a reboot. And like this is going to be Forza Motorsport now.
That was the problem, is that game didn't hit, or that game wasn't good.
Yeah. And it was kind of mediocre. And then also it's a problem because that's not a game like Horizon that separates itself enough to where you can put it on PlayStation. There's no point of putting Motorsport on PlayStation because you have Gran Turismo there.
Well, you say that. I don't quite agree. I mean, Sony might not allow them to. That's one thing. But if Sony did, they should still do it, because, hey, Gran Turismo 7 is old. And
but they're still updating Gran Turismo, though. You know?
And it's not like, oh, now that Gran Turismo is on this console, there's no other simulation racing games here. It's like, no, they're just competing. Like, but the bigger problem is Motorsport. The last Motorsport game wasn't good.
Yeah.
So if they put like Motorsport 4 or 5 on there, even though they're old, like, sure, why not?
I don't think they would, just because didn't they? They have licensing problems where they can't. If they're taking on the old Horizons, then I imagine.
But yeah, like, I always thought Motorsport was a better game than Gran Turismo, just from a player.
It was. I certainly there were certain years where it definitely was. I think Gran Turismo 7 is much more well liked by that community than this version of Forza Motorsport is, and that's an issue, right? Unless you're gonna bring it out and put it at like $40 or something.
Sure. I mean, hell, why not?
Then I don't know. Like you said, it could be a thing where Sony just says, "Nah, we don't want that."
But I think there's two other things. One is there are games. I mean, I think I mentioned this on Facebook a few days ago. Like from 2020, like their whole big press conference thing is a disaster. Like of the 9 games that they kind of lauded back then, only like 4 have come out, and only 2 have like done well. And there are games even now. Like, I'm honestly shocked that Fable didn't get canceled.
I think they can't. It's too much money's been spent, and it's one of the big tent poles. Like, it has to.
So it's Perfect Dark.
Perfect Dark is not a big tent pole.
Perfect
we
Dark
don't know how far much long. Okay, but here's the thing:
Yeah.
like Fable, they've shown us stuff, even though it's an alpha test. Like that game was supposed to come out this year. Like Perfect Dark has never had a release date. You know,
right, but Fable has also been in development for way longer.
yes.
So it's cost them more money, and the thing still doesn't even have like a firm release date, or even like, I mean, a technical alpha at this point in the game, where I think it came out, like the footage came out a few months ago, is like laughable. Right. It's like this has been in development for 9 years.
I think it's more of they trust Playground more than they trust the initiative. Like Playground has the rope because of how great Forza Horizon 5 is.
Yeah.
So they can allow them to keep chugging away because I'm sure somebody is there making the case that when this game comes out, it's going to be a game that people are going to be playing for a while. Whereas, again, Perfect Dark, we don't know when that game's going to come out. It looks awesome. Are you ever going to be able to get it to look like that? I mean, you could say the same thing for Fable, but it's like Fable has a track record. Fable is a franchise. Whereas, like, okay, when's the last time we had that Perfect Dark? It wasn't well received, the Xbox one, right? It's not the same. I mean, yeah,
it did okay, but yes, Perfect Dark was much more like in hibernation, but
right.
There was a lot more excitement about Perfect Dark than the Sable thing. Them going like, hey, we have Richard Ayoade from the IT crowd as like a giant. It's like, okay, but where's the actual gameplay here? And that's still something they haven't shown, like realistically. And if the thing's supposed to be out due now next year, like, why is there no gameplay trailer?
Yeah,
more. I mean, that's just one problem or one game, but like, where is State of Decay 3?
Yeah, I mean that's why there's rumored to be layoffs from Undead Labs, probably because that's probably going to be longer in the tooth as well. Yeah. But again, there's a track record from that studio of State of Decay 2 and so on, where it's like, okay, we can give you guys that's supposed to be coming next year as well, most likely. Whereas, like, okay, they probably looked at it and somebody gave them a realistic point of view of saying, look, Perfect Dark may not be till 2027 or longer. Everwild, who the hell knows? So they said, okay, let's just kill it here. You know, we're not going to do anything else with the initiative. This was supposed to be their game that kind of launched them into being a proper Xbox studio. Since we didn't get to do that, we closed it. It's again mismanagement on the part of Matt Booty, Phil Spencer, whoever it is, the management at that studio.
Right.
That was also part of this as well. They're going to cut a lot of the middle management so that you're not having so many people that you have to like go through to figure out what's going on with the game or whatever. I don't know what the actual.
I mean, that's kind of good and bad.
Yeah.
I mean, on that service that might be good, but if the problem is a management, you know, not being if there's no managers there, or that's the issue that they already have to begin with, is they don't have enough managers. Like, if it's all having to rest on Matt Booty's shoulders, it's like, come on.
I also want to know, like, how long did they think it was going to take for that ZeniMax Online game to happen? Because if Phil Spencer loves the crap out of that game, and that wasn't enough to save the game from continuing to exist, at least for a little while longer, like, damn, you must have felt that was either going to cost a lot of money to get to where it would be in a state where you could put it out, or it was going to take too long. And
which, I think both are kind of crazy, or both are like how in alpha was this thing to begin with, or it had to be at least in some playable state, like
right. It's just it's crazy that they lost, and that's just what we know, right? We don't know if there was other games that we've just never seen the light of day or heard of at all, that maybe this week they announced that that's been kind of canceled, the way that, you know, we've seen other studios just say, oh, we canceled some projects, and
right.
And that's it.
I mean, like, I've seen
Yeah.
people comparing this to like when Sony lays people off. And it's like, yeah, Sony will maybe shut down a studio or two, but they don't lose 9,000 people. Like,
well, I mean, it's not all Xbox, right? This is various departments of the Microsoft, and many of them have nothing to do with Xbox,
right?
At all. It's just, again, that's part of the whole. Once you bought Activision-Blizzard-King, you now became under the purview of Microsoft. They are now paying attention to you. You now have, as soon as Phil Spencer uttered the words, "We now have to be a good business for Microsoft," that's where you knew, oh, this is a whole new ball game now. This is if Phil is going out there talking corporate speak in the actual interviews with gaming outlets, like, that is bad. Like, that's not good. That means everybody has to be on their P's and Q's, making sure stuff delivers. And to be fair, to bring in the parlance about Game Pass, which we had a former one of the Arcane founders, and to be fair,
Right.
he's not been with the studio since 2017, so he's not even been there when they bought the small studios like Compulsion and
Right.
oh my god, the Double Fines and all that. He hasn't even been there around then, let alone the Bethesda and the Activision Blizzard stuff. But he did, bring up the whole, why is nobody talking about the big elephant in the room, which is, Xbox Game Pass, and how much that has ruined gaming. It's an unsustainable model that's been increasingly damaging the industry for a decade, subsidized by MS's infinite money. But at some point, reality has to hit. I don't think GP can coexist with other models. They'll either kill everyone else or give up. Of course, he's now at Wolfeye Studios, which, had Weird West come out on Game Pass. That game was fine by all measures. It was not amazing. Maybe other people thought it was. But
I mean,
to me, it was fine for being on Game Pass.
It has been an average of like 75 or 80 on like Metacritic.
Okay, but like, that's also what you could say for Atomfall and Sniper Elite Resistance, and those are both on Game Pass, and Rebellion was happy about it. So this just continues the narrative that it's like, depending on who you talk to, you love Game Pass or you hate Game Pass. We know, yeah.
He's talking about it. He's talking about Game Pass more. I mean, it's partially like a developer talking about it, but like in a more global position. And if Game Pass was so great or so profitable, why did these layoffs all happen?
It doesn't really have to do with not much with Game Pass, though.
Yeah, but like, if Game Pass, if Game Pass had 1 billion subscribers, or was pulling in, $1 billion a month or whatever, like, I don't think these layoffs would have happened. But at a certain point, they have to reach a plateau of both profit and consumers, and I think they've already kind of reached that probably like a long time ago.
Well, yeah, the plateau thing, it's definitely happened. That's why they're trying to put Game Pass on everything, to try to see if they can pull anyone. And then, they did get a bump with Black Ops, but I'm sure. And then partially also is that they never got to, until this year, they never got to nail the strategy that they wanted to hit, which was, we're going to have something to give you every single month that you're going to not want to unsubscribe. And yeah,
that philosophy is also bad, because what if the games are put on Game Pass don't appeal to you?
I mean, but that's part of it, though. It's like they're getting a lot of the first party games coming out at a more regular cadence, right? If they don't appeal to you, then, I mean, what are you doing? This is, what Xbox's studios are. Most of them are Western developers that are doing, Western RPGs or action titles like Doom, or, it's like, you kind of know what the portfolio is. And if you're a casual gamer and you don't know and you bought it for 1 month and you can't find anything even in the back catalog to play, then I don't know, man. Like,
I mean, no, but they'll play for a month. They'll play whatever game and then they'll just unsubscribe. Like, all right, I'm done with that. And when Microsoft puts on, Final Fantasy 15 or 16 rather, it's like, who cares? It's already an old game.
Yeah, I mean, but that's
like,
not their fault. That's Square Enix.
Like, I thought it was funny. Did you see the thing about like Phil? I think Phil said like we got 40 projects in development, and
yes,
everything from the showcase is safe.
Right.
And it's dog. Half those games aren't yours, so it's like who the fuck are you to say Super Meat Boy 3D is safe? It's like, that ain't your game. Like,
well, no, but he's talking about his games. He's not talking about the games that he has nothing to do with. Obviously, he's.
I don't know, some of the stuff I'd still question if it's going to happen.
Like I mean, so looking at it realistically, it's not like, to me, if this was about Game Pass, then Compulsion would have lost people because South of Midnight didn't bring enough people to Game Pass, but they didn't. Right. Ninja Theory, which, to be fair, they are helping port the game over to PS5 right now, but they didn't lose anybody either. Although they have a secondary function that apparently they help other studios with things and whatnot. So they don't just sit there and make their games; they help other studios as well. Obsidian is right now making 2 other games, and that's part of it. That's part of the issue as well, is that Microsoft seems to not be able to understand which studios need a firm hand and which studios can be like Obsidian, where you can leave them alone and they're just doing their thing, right? They can put out 3 games in a year.
Yeah, I think we talked about this a few weeks ago, but that Obsidian is like, honestly, their most lucrative or most like productive acquisition. It damn sure isn't Double Fine or.
Well, to be fair, Double Fine made Psychonauts, and now they're making another game and it's coming out this year. I mean, like, what else do you want them to do? Like, and it's a small game. He doesn't work like that.
He did.
Schafer, I don't know. I guess not with Microsoft's money, I guess. Whatever.
But I mean, that's the thing, is like, Obsidian is good, but so many of their other
and Call of Duty, obviously, because they got so many people working on that thing that they know what they're doing at this point. And whoever's doing the Tony Hawk games that are about to come out in a couple of days.
Well, it's Iron Galaxy. I mean, they just developed it, but I mean, they're still Activision owns. They're publishing it,
right? But like, the couple of things that Activision's doing, they're doing that. Blizzard's just continuing on with the same stuff that they're doing
in a quagmire.
Which they just put Diablo 4 in PlayStation Plus to try to get that more players.
That's so funny because I guess it's fine, it's on there, but like I think for like Jens really didn't like Diablo 4.
Right.
I think a lot of the older guard didn't like Diablo 4. I think
there's a lot of people that don't like Diablo 4. They didn't like it. They don't like the fact that you have to like redo a character every time you do one of the seasonal.
I don't like that. I think that's dumb because it's like, you want to focus on your character, and you should be able to like copy your character into the new season to actually see the new content. But for a game that is like so loaded with microtransactions, or like that's kind of the end goal, 95% of their microtransactions are bad or like ugly.
Yeah,
and it's just like embarrassing. Like, it's just like so low effort. Like they introduced Berserk, the old anime,
right?
Like DLC into it like last season, and it was basically like one armor set, maybe, a horse trophy, and like the spirit or the graveyard icon, and that was it.
Right.
It's like, how bored are you guys of this shit? And it was also like insanely hard to even like get. Like, You need to play that game for like hundreds of hours to get enough currency to to get all that crap.
Right.
Or you just buy it, but it's like no one cares,
Yeah, I mean, to go back to the original point is he has a point in that, which is the same thing we always say. There is no incentive for the big third-party publishers to put their game on Game Pass at all, unless it's a multiplayer game that like needs people. It's why EA waits till the last possible minute to put any of their sports games on EA Play. Why? Because they know the moment that you put it on Game Pass, people are done buying that thing.
Right.
So, they wait till the Super Bowl to put Madden on there. They wait till you're into the NBA Finals, 2K does, to put NBA 2K on PS Plus or Game Pass. So, like, when they've gotten all the money they can out of it, that's when they put it on there. Same thing with, like, we've seen Square Enix do it. Outside of the Visions, they didn't with the Visions of Mana, they didn't do it, but they did with the other Mana game or whatnot. But we've seen other kind of companies do it, like way after the fact of okay, it's done making money, we'll just put it in here to see if it can get some more players. And it is what it is. It's great for indies for the most part. Not the ones that they just wanted to get their game made and get people playing the game. It's done great for Clair Obscur Expedition 33, and people went and bought it on other systems. I mean, obviously, I'm sure there's people that bought on Xbox, but it's way less the number. That is one of those like rare times where Xbox has been able to hit on something that became part of the zeitgeist. It became part of like one of those things you talk about in gaming for the year of, oh, this game was on Game Pass and it did amazing. And it's an awesome game. It's a game of the year candidate. Same thing with Blueprints, but that was also on PS Plus, but still like that was on Game Pass. Like they've been able to get a lot of hits this year, whereas other years they've literally had almost nothing, and that was the problem was until this year and the tail end of last year, the value proposition of Game Pass wasn't really there. So I think a lot of people were kind of like, well, okay, everybody keeps talking about this thing, but it's like, I don't give a shit about any of this stuff that's on here. Or all this stuff's old. Like, I don't want to play that, and then the new stuff that Microsoft's coming out with, it's like really until Indiana Jones last year, I think, and then going into this year is when we really gotten to see the fruits of all that.
I think it's forgetting about a little game called Redfall.
Yeah, and that's you bring up Redfall, but like that's where I feel like Phil made that big deal about going on the Kind of Funny podcast and talking about how they've learned from Redfall, and it's like, did y'all really learn from Redfall? Because I feel like this is something y'all should have learned from Redfall is these mistakes here. Again, like I'm sure that Phil just wanted to continue the status quo, and maybe Satya Nadella and Amy Hood came in and said like, yo, y'all aren't making, there's supposed, reports out, from Jez Corden at Windows Central and other, and he says that Amy Hood is putting way too much on Xbox. Tom Warren's come out and said like, it's not as crazy as you think it is. But everybody's kind of MO at the end of this was supposed to be worse, a lot worse than it actually wound up being. So not sure where it happened, like who stopped the bloodletting, who talked them out of it. Does people overhype what was going to happen? Whatever. At the end of the day, it could have been much worse, and it could have affected studios that are actually making games that have, like, it feels like they have actual deadlines of when they're going to come out.
All right.
Not sure how much longer of a leash they're going to give them to do that. But I mean, if they can keep, I mean, Avowed was one of those things where like some people really liked it, some people didn't, some people thought it was just okay. You've got things still coming this year, but South of Midnight was well liked for the most part. I'm sure it will get some nominations for, some awards or whatever, very much like Hellblade 2 did, which is what that studio was supposed to be around to do. So, it did accomplish its task there. We got, Grounded 2 coming from Obsidian. We got Out of Worlds 2 coming from Obsidian. You got they partnered with to do Ninja Gaiden 4, and then they got Keeper coming. That's all in like 3 weeks in October. I don't know why they couldn't like separate that out a little bit more, but whatever. They got the Indiana Jones DLC. So they definitely have things like every month coming, but it's like this should have been something that y'all had down the line the last couple of years. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way, but I feel like that has made people kind of weary about Game Pass too. And then by the time you're getting people to kind of try it again now, it's like, oh, too little too late for me. I'm going to take my $20 elsewhere or whatever,
I just rather save the $20 for 3 months and then buy the one game I care about.
Yeah, that too, right? Like, there's definitely were a lot of people that went in. It helps Call of Duty for the casual player, right? For the person that isn't the hardcore Call of Duty guy that buys it every year. But if you got your friends that want to play with you for a couple weeks or whatever while it's just came out, it's great for that. And then they just, unsubscribe after that month that they play or whatever. But, it's another issue of like what's going to wind up happening with Gears, E-Day, what's going to wind up happening with Fable, what's going to happen with Halo. Supposedly there were some folks laid off from Halo Studios. Well, not a huge number, but kind of a small number, but still. They keep talking about they're making that game. They keep hyping it up. That supposedly during the Halo World Championship this year, they're going to show off something. We'll see on that.
It'll be another stupid trailer or just.
Oh yeah, one of those like concept trailers. Yeah.
Or it'll just be like the Master Chief, like his helmet in his hand or something. You only see him from the back.
Yeah, and it's just like outside of Playground with Forza Horizon, it feels like everything else that's like kind of that old AAA Microsoft is kind of gone down.
Yeah,
and quality.
That's what you call the Phil Spencer magic.
Yeah. No, I mean that's the thing. It's weird. It's like all these like small studio games have come out and done pretty well, or whatever. And then it's like the bigger ones. It's like the ones you're counting on to sell Game Pass.
Well, the small stuff like you care about, and like a small number of people care about, but they don't move the needle.
Right,
they don't on the console.
Exactly.
So that's an issue. Like, I think the guy should retire.
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like Matt Booty is also at fault for this.
Do
as well. Like both of them.
Clear Sarah Bond out.
I don't know. Sarah Bond's more of like the hardware team. I don't think she really has much to do with the like day to day.
I don't care. Like their whole stupid Asus thing is like that. It's gonna be great when like that one requires also returns because the micro SD card slot fails.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting if they have the failures
I agree with that woman last week who said like Xbox, she was the one who like worked on Xbox back in the day when she's like
right, yeah, Laura Fryer, yeah,
so distorted. It's like I mean, and you'll not agree with this or like her sentiment because you love Game Pass, but yeah, like when like the most popular Xbox console was the 360. By a decent margin, and all of their stuff they've been trying to do for the past 5 years, even 10 years, no one cares about, or like very few people care about. They should have been going back to basics, not trying all this like weird shit.
But they try. Okay, Xbox One killed them. Okay, they lost a huge market share.
They lost that generation for sure.
Okay, but that's the thing that Phil said, that once you build that digital library, you have no reason to then get away from the PlayStation 5 to come to the Xbox. So they had to do something completely different, which Game Pass as a concept is not bad, because at the time that they were having it come out, we were all the rage with streaming services. The problem is that people have streaming service fatigue right now. And then at the time that you're being able to gloat about it being the best value in gaming, it took forever to get to that point. And now people can just go play Fortnite for free or whatever, and you don't really need something like Game Pass's value to a lot of the people that would. There's that report that was done on IGN about how the younger generation is not spending that much money on video games, right? Which is the generation that's going to come after us, that are going to be the main target at some point. They're also the ones that don't care about where you play the game. They just want to play the damn game. But like, they're spending less on that because there's obviously other financial pressures that are obviously more important. But it's like, that's when you also make silly mistakes, like making your console $600 and making your games $80. And it's like, okay, I get it that you're trying to make Game Pass look like this appetizing, wonderful, awesome thing of like, oh man, for $20 I can have all these games. And it's like, but a lot of people don't want that. They don't want to play that whole thing. They don't see the value in it because they don't have time to play all those games. Right?
Quick thing.
Yeah.
You may want to respond to Adam's email real quick.
He
has a game you'll want to review.
Okay.
But like, yeah, they didn't, or they should have been like, I mean, Sony's current plan isn't working either, but at least with Sony, like, they still have the more tried and true games they can kind of fall back on. Like, the three pillars at Microsoft would have been, Gears, Halo, and Forza. And only one of those at the moment is healthy, or at least hopefully healthy. So,
yeah,
I don't know. I think it's bad, but I think it's a mess of their own making. And like, they could have, or they I don't think they could have. They should have done better, but they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, there's different strategies that they possibly could have done, right? Also, like that, they had to do whatever they could to make Game Pass as appealing as possible. So they had to do the day one launch thing, and then it's like, then you can't take that back because you've already done it. So it's like, you take that away, you're gonna get everybody unsubscribing, because that is the concept of Game Pass. That's like, okay, I know I'm getting that day one. Like, okay, I'm going to stay subscribed because I know this game that's coming out tomorrow is going to be on there, right? And it's like, that's a problem in itself, because then you cannibalize your own sales, right? And it's profitable. People been bringing this up lately. I just wanted to make this point that, okay, Game Pass is profitable because your first party sales are not your first party stuff is not included in that. That is a different branch of your expenses. Right. So the only thing that counts is the checks that they cut to the indie games and the old games that they put on there from the third parties. And, that's it. So it's profitable on that extent because they have stopped going after the huge third party games that they needed to do, because they didn't have their own first party to back them up. So they've spent less now on bringing games to Game Pass, which that's good. But then, you're having other issues that also are hurtful for Game Pass, because, people start having this feeling of anything that's kind of like mid-tier, right? Double A and like Clair, Obscur and below, people assume that it's going to be on Game Pass at some point. So why buy it, right? Maybe they don't take that chance anymore on a game because they'll eventually be like, oh, I'll play it in 6 months or whatever. And to be fair, that it's nice that option is there, but it hurts the developer on that end too, which I can see. But you could also say the same for PS Plus. That's PS Plus does the same thing, and they go after a lot more bigger games than Xbox does. Xbox focuses a lot more on the indies and whatever. You see a lot of like just random third party things that from like a couple of years ago that always wind up being on the PS Plus thing that comes out in the middle of the month every time. So, it's both of them. Obviously, Microsoft started that, but still, I think in that instance, you blame both the services, right, for that. But also, as you keep going more and more digital and you guys have more control over the sales, and the sales aren't as crazy as they used to be, like the Steam sales are nowhere near as crazy as they used to be. You don't have those flash sales anymore where you have a game that costs like $50 that recently came out is all of a sudden like $15. Like that's not happening anymore. So that's also because people started calling that out. Like they started being like, well, this is not really helping me. It's great for the consumer, but it's costing me. So that stopped as well.
I don't know. It's not Steam, but it's
right.
There are like all alternative storefronts.
Yeah.
So I bought that RoboCop game on Steam, or I think it's on Fanatical or something.
Well, now this week it's there like during the little bit of the Steam sale stuff. I think it is there now for like $10, but obviously it's like a year or two older from when you bought it, I think. So
no, I bought it. Well, I bought it like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, you did? Okay.
It was like $3.
Oh, nice.
And now, I mean, on Steam right now it's $5.
Okay, that's what I meant. Yeah, I knew I just saw it like for $5 on Steam. Yeah.
Meanwhile, on PSN and Xbox, it's still $60. It's like, huh? Which one am I gonna buy here?
Yeah, right.
And having played the PS5 version, don't play that one. So.
Yeah.
I don't know, all the layouts are bad, but
yeah.
Well, except for the Romero one, but I'm still salty that he made me his bitch in 2000. So
okay, that was random.
You don't remember the old Daikatana ad?
No.
That was the big thing when Daikatana came out in 2000. Like the print was like, John Romero's about to make you his bitch, and it's like, yep, this is a good way to sell this game.
All right. Sorry, I was responding to Adam. Somebody came in right after me, and I think I'm just gonna let him. I'm gonna let him have it because,
you want some more?
I took it. I took it because I figured nobody else would want it.
Right. It's only gonna be me. So
yeah. Well, it was Xbox, so you can't.
Right.
You can't review it anyway.
I'll play it on PC. No problem.
I don't know if that's ever going to come to PC. I wonder why I guess that probably has to do with the whole they don't want the license issue to become an issue with PC, I'm sure. So anyway, there is another Xbox kind of headline here, which is interesting because it's something that I don't think anybody thought would happen. Just because like this is the main breadwinner when it comes to live service games for Sony. And Sony is also publishing Helldivers 2 on Xbox. They're not doing an intermediary like they did with Death Stranding 2 or like MLB is doing the show or whatever. This is Sony putting their name on an Xbox console. So it's either I've seen some theories float around. Obviously, the main one is that it's a live service game. It needs more players. Why not? What does it hurt? As long as it's not a first party, as long as it's not a single player PlayStation game, I don't think it's going to hurt too much. I have seen the stupid, console warrior people already getting mad, and some folks are, trading in their PlayStation because they feel like this is going to be the Microsoft's like, oh, it's only the 4 games thing. Of eventually more will come. And then also there's the other idea of it that I've heard is, well, they don't consider Xbox competition anymore. So this is just another.
That'd actually be like the most insulting one, quietly insulting.
They don't.
one.
Yeah, they don't consider Xbox competition anymore. So why not give it to them to get more players, and that eventually they'll put it on Switch 2 as well, and everybody will be playing that thing.
I can see the intermediary thing, meaning like they don't want to share the revenue with some other company. I mean, even if it's very small. So, hey, why not?
Yeah.
Also, they should release like some Xbox branded like skins for the bad robots in the game. Like they're all green now.
But yeah, so I just figured I would respond to Adam there really quick so he can go ahead and just give it to the guy and can move on. But anyway, so I think this is cool. As far as just like, I don't know where to stand on it. Like I think people that are overdoing it on the whole, oh my God, this is it. It's over. There's no more exclusivity. Like, y'all, like let this be. It makes sense. Arrowhead already said they don't want to work on PlayStation exclusively on the next game they're doing.
Right.
This may be some kind of contractual agreement in that if Arrowhead is going to keep working on the game for a certain period of time, they need more players to be able to make more content. There was rumors for a while when Microsoft was really starting to do that push of putting the games on PlayStation. There was rumors coming around that Helldivers 2 would show up on Xbox. And nobody was really giving it any play because, whole console war bullshit or whatever. Now it's come to fruition. But it does make sense with Sony's strategy. They did say that multi-platform will be a thing for live service.
Yeah.
So, like, does it matter if it's on Xbox? If you're not getting look, I understand this is a Sony franchise or whatever. It's a Sony-owned IP. Sony's publishing it, whatever. But to me, I equate it to the same thing as Marathon showing up on there. Like, until Microsoft or Xbox gets a Last of Us or Horizon or one of the bigger actually viable Sony first party things, that's when you can scream and holler and whatever. Even though now there's apparently rumors that Returnal may come to Xbox. I don't know. But
I mean, I could always see their smaller games hitting Xbox, but
where do you stand with that? Because I think at some point, this is about making money. Like, Sony goes where the money is. And Sony needs to recoup some of this. I've said this to people that, I don't really like to get into the forums that much or whatever, but there is, in the Video Game Outsiders one that I go in sometimes, there's people that are just hardcore on both sides of the aisle. And I'm just like, guys, this is about making money. We are done with the whole console war bullshit that happened long ago. Sony already won, number one. Nintendo technically beat everybody, okay? And Nintendo's going to keep being Nintendo until the day that nobody ever buys whatever Nintendo console comes out, okay?
Right.
Sony has to make back some of this money that they spent on the live service crap that did not work out for them. And we don't know if Marathon's going to work out. We don't know if Fair Games is going to work out. Even if they put Fair Games on Xbox, there's no guarantee that it's going to work out. It could just be a bad game.
Right.
Why not give Xbox the one game that is good, that people liked, even though, yes, the zeitgeist for that thing is gone. No one gives a shit. Not no one gives a shit, but it's like literally it's very low on the spectrum right now. Like, maybe the Xbox crowd will revive it, but then also you're giving it to a crowd we just talked about, they don't go around buying a bunch of games. So maybe they will for something like this. This very much feels like back in the day Halo or whatever. Maybe it will appeal to that crowd and it will jumpstart it. And if enough sales happen, to me, if you're going to go in with Soros is about to come out, right? PlayStation gets the new game and Xbox gets the old ass game from what, like 4 years ago at this point? Who cares?
Right.
Like, oh, my toy went over to the other side. Like, yo, what you should care about is that Sony is making money so they can keep funding the next game. Right? Like, if I get Returnal 4 years later, I'm only on Xbox, and you're now getting the new game from what's the studio? Housemarque.
Yeah.
Who cares? Like, like the people that are not on Twitter every day don't give a flying fuck about that shit. Like, they just want to play games, So I don't think it's hurting your brand at all. If you're giving away a game, you're not giving it away. You're making them pay for it 5 years later. It's the same thing Microsoft is doing, right? You want to play Forza Horizon 5 3 years later, 4 years later, whatever, however many years it is. You're paying $70 for that. So why can't Sony do that also? They're doing it with PC. Like, what's it? I think honestly, part of it is like you've been saying, if Xbox really does go PC next generation, then they're a PC, right? Sony's games will be playable on that thing anyway. So why not go ahead and start conditioning that crowd to want to play your games? So it's extra revenue for you. I don't know. I just don't. To me, as long as they don't go day and date, I don't really see the big deal.
Right.
But that's just me,
Both. I mean, I don't think the big Sony franchises will ever hit like officially, but the small stuff and the old stuff, like, who cares?
Yeah. So, it's just one of those things where it's like, to me, I think people are making a big deal about it because of the whole console warrior thing. And look, you guys got to understand that those walls are going to start coming down, whether you like it or not, because maybe if somebody doesn't fail with a live service, then they can keep doing their thing and they don't ever put Helldivers 2 on Xbox.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, and it's not like they're putting in Game Pass for free. They're making you pay the $40. And it might just be a test bed, right? It might just be well, if nobody buys it, then okay, we were right. Nobody buys games on Xbox, and we don't need to entertain this again.
Right.
But if they do buy it, then just see it as a revenue source, the way that Xbox sees you. And that's it. Y'all can just be reciprocal with each other. Also interesting that like they did it the same day as the Gears Reloaded is coming out.
Yeah.
Like, are we still are we trying to see if they'll buy both? Or are we trying to see if they just have to pick one, or what the thing is? That's interesting on that front. But yeah. There's some other news that is also negative, unfortunately. Subnautica 2 has lost its entire leadership team, as CEO Ted Gill, co-founder, creative director Charlie Cleveland, and co-founder, technical director Max McGuire have all left the studio, according to Crafton.
Yep.
The Unknown Worlds team is now going to be headed up by Steve Papaostis. He was previously the CEO of Striking Distance and part of GM's like EA Visceral. Are you worried about Subnautica 2 now?
No, I didn't have any real interest in it in the first place.
I thought you liked the first one, kind of.
I like the idea of it, but I don't like it that it's like a survival game, or that it's,
okay, fair enough.
Go mine, the coral to craft a better knife, to mine more coral, worrying about hunger and that type of crap. Like I feel the only one of those I kind of like is the Long Dark, because they actually had a story in it, so that was nice.
Yeah, I remember
like the
you
idea of it.
liking the Long Dark a lot.
Yeah.
I wonder if this is more about, okay, the game's like nearing completion, maybe,
Right.
and that they feel like it's okay for them to leave, that they don't plan on
I think
being
one
there
guy
after this or something.
one guy seemed a little salty about it. Like he's like, the game's already done. It's already done for early access. They just don't want to put it out. And it's like, okay.
Oh yeah, like essentially they did their job. We don't owe you anything. We're gonna move on. You know, interesting that I wonder how proud they are of the game then, if you're just kind of like you don't even want to stay until it's officially out. But or maybe it is like you said, they're just kind of like they told them like, why don't you just go ahead and put it out? And they're saying, well, no, we kind of want to hold it for a while, and they're kind of like, okay, well, we're done with it. So
yeah.
Also, no surprise, the Mindseye lead Leslie Benzies continues to kind of live in, I don't know where, but he's not living in reality.
He's living in denial.
Denial of blaming internal and external saboteurs for the failure of the game, not the technical problems or anything.
No. The saboteurs caused the technical problems.
Yeah, exactly. They just randomly went into the game and messed it up. It's like that's not the reason why it has a 38 and 28 Metacritic and OpenCritic, and PlayStation is refunding the game for people and stuff. Like, yeah.
He played Watch Dogs and thought that's how people were hacking into his servers and fucking up the game.
Yeah, like, you're having to tell 300 staff that they're reportedly possibly at risk of losing their jobs. Like, yeah, that's all about the saboteurs and the. I'm not saying that review bombing doesn't affect things, but this is not review bombing. This is people that have a legit qualm on the game.
Well, it's review bombing by actual reviewers. It's not just irate, gamers or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. It's not gamers that are doing it because they don't like that this thing is woke or whatever. This is actual like reviewers that do this thing, don't like it. The players also agree, and unfortunately, that sucks when both the players and the critics agree that the game sucks. It sucks, guys.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate. Same thing that happened with Cyberpunk, but
it weirdly makes me think that like some of the more wild stories you used to hear about Rockstar, like about how paranoid they were, or because of this guy. Like,
I mean, yeah, they are pretty still paranoid. Right.
Yeah.
Especially after that first trailer got leaked or whatever.
Right. And well, they got hacked also. But like,
yeah.
If GTA 6 somehow came out and it was like a bad game, I don't think they'd be saying it's due to hackers or it's due to the Illuminati, like this guy's trying to claim.
Yeah. It's like, what are you smoking, dude? Like,
yeah.
I don't get that, but sure, whatever.
The lizard people formed an alliance with the mole men, and they're the ones who ruined our game.
Exactly. It's like, no, it had nothing to do with us, whatever.
Honestly,
yeah.
If he just came out and said, like, I'd respect him if he just said, hey, we made a bad game, or we tried our best.
I mean, that's the thing he did at first. He said he was heartbroken, that they know what the problems are. If you guys will be patient, we'll fix it. Yeah, but then like
the CTO was one who was going like, oh, he didn't say saboteurs, but he said something else that was really dumb. Like,
yeah, like people are trying to. At first, it was when the game was like not even in review period. Okay, they were talking crap about the game doesn't look good and all that stuff, and then they started talking crap about people were just trying to be haters. And then it's like, you guys didn't give any early review copies to anyone. Like, what does that say? That there's a problem with the game,
right?
And then like, okay, then the reviewers come out and give it what they think they should, and then the players get it and they feel the same, and it's like, what do you want people to do? They were cutting people off midstream from partnered streams. That's how bad it was. They were so scared that they would ruin anybody else's thoughts of the game. They wanted to essentially get suckers to buy it and get money before, so nobody could figure out it was bad. It's just like that's actually dishonest. It's not great. So you kind of deserve. I hate that the people are having to get laid off for this, but you kind of deserve the crap you're getting because of the way that you released this game and you didn't let people be honest and just say from the beginning, "Hey, don't buy it." Then you're having to go through the more embarrassing thing of having to deal with PlayStation stores giving out refunds. Like it's just, that's not good, man. But speaking of interesting kind of thought process here for Neil Druckmann, who's leaving the production of The Last of Us TV show for season 3. He says he now has to get back to his job as, the lead over there for Intergalactic.
All right.
That he's leaving it at a good spot because they haven't really started the production of the third and what seems to be the final season. There's a lot of, I haven't watched the part 2 yet. I've heard a lot of people say that the one episode that he directed is perhaps the best one of the entire season.
Yeah.
And that it wasn't until like the last couple of episodes that he actually started co-writing. So like maybe he feels like, well, I don't need to be around. If you're not really going to have me involved, then I don't really need to be around because, he already did most of the episodes without me. So
I could see him. I mean, he said he's leaving, but I'm sure they'll still pass along certain ideas,
things.
Or he'll have some oversight regardless. I don't know. I think if the second season did better, like critically and from the audience, he'd be still around.
I agree. Yeah, that's part of it too. He doesn't want to be involved with what if the third season just completely crashes out.
Yeah.
Especially if he's having to go off stuff that's maybe not in the game.
Right. That always works well.
And then he's getting blamed for, are you trying to put in things that are going to be in Last of Us 3? If there is one, because he's never definitively said that there is a Last of Us 3. He's kind of always left it up in the air of like, well, if I do a Last of Us 3, whatever. So
it's going to have the same problem that Game of Thrones season 8 had.
I hope not. I hate to see it end like that.
Or like the TV guy just picks up his own ending, and it's because the lazy jackass won't write the books anymore. So the TV people have to make the ending. Because like, we can't exactly keep Sophie, or we can't exactly keep what's your name, Sophie? Not Sophie Monk. Sophie.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Sophie Turner on on contract for 10 years while this guy tries to finish off the book series and still doesn't do it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, speaking of series that we didn't know was going to come back because they kind of definitively said it was only going to be that one season. Cyberpunk Edgerunners season 2 is officially happening. It's going to be a completely different story, still set in the same world, still done by Studio Trigger and everything else. So that's going to be great. I love the animation in that series. I love that first series, so I'm down for the second one.
Sure.
For sure. Glad to hear it's coming back.
They probably find a way to make it cheaper, or to reuse some assets, or so.
Yeah. What do you think about Capcom saying they still value Mega Man?
That's a lie.
There's not been a new game.
Right. Yeah. It's like when was the last tradition? I mean, when was the last Mega Man game that wasn't a collection? And that was probably 2011 with Mega Man 11, I think.
2018, Mega Man 11.
Wow, that came out that late. I was thinking Mega Man 10. That was it.
Yeah, Mega Man 10 was the early 2010s. Yeah.
Right. I mean, Mega Man 11 wasn't. I didn't really like it.
Yeah, that was the kind of the main
I mean, here's the thing. At this point, I think it'd be hard to go back to like that old formula. What they should be doing is a Metroidvania.
You think so? I mean, yeah, because Metroidvanias are kind of more of the rage right now than
right. Like you beat a boss, you beat Cutman, and you get his weapon, and now you can cut wires in Dr. Wily's base, or you beat Gutsman, and now you can pick up like stronger shit. Like, but no, they just want to like they are beholden to tradition, but it's like that tradition like doesn't play anymore,
Right. But please don't make it a roguelike either. Like we don't need to go that far down the road of
I wouldn't mind that either. Screw it. Like, yeah, like Mega Man is just going to like different VR simulations or something. That'd be kind of funny.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't think like. I mean, I know you like them a little more than I do, but like that's why I don't think like beat 'em ups work anymore. Like in today's audience, it's because like it's too archaic.
Yeah, because it's a lot of the even if you have like power, like that's the one that, I don't know. Streets of Rage 4 worked really well for me,
right?
But I agree that for the most part,
they made a bunch since then that like it's like all right, here's another one, I guess, and it's like here's we resurrected the Power Rangers one or brand, or we resurrected the Turtles name, and
I will say that's probably why they're that Absolutum game or that one has like roguelike stuff in it,
right?
So they did make that one a little bit different to kind of
I mean, Mega Man is as important to Capcom as like Arthur is to Capcom, or like Strider. Yeah. It's like make a new Strider game.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, they like you said, they are at least making the collections, so they do have it like in their minds. Well, yeah. It's just
now they're done with those because they got nothing else to do.
Right. Yeah, time to do the Konami thing and just maybe give it out to a different studio.
Make a finally poured over Rockman and Chase to the English audience. Yeah. It'll finally compete with Mario Kart.
Right. So one last thing here, unless you have something else you want to talk about here. Video Games Europe did respond to the petition that Stop Killing Games initiative got 1.2 million signatures. And they said that they appreciate the passion from the community. They cannot force game makers to make their game that's online only playable offline forever. That it would be too costly. Private servers are also costly and a potentially a security issue, so you can't have that either. Does that make it to where basically nobody's going to ever be able to do anything if a game company? You think there'll ever be somebody that may try to introduce a law or something like that you got to make it playable in some form, or is it always going to be just they can't do it, and if the company says they don't want to support anymore, that's it?
I think it's that one. Well, this is related to the Crew going offline a few years ago.
Right, exactly.
But the bigger one is Anthem. They announced
Anthem
2 days ago.
Just got announced. Yeah.
And I was arguing with a few people on,
People are still playing that, really?
Okay. Well, that was my gut reaction was Anthem was still online, and I was I argued with some people online. They were like, it's the principle of the matter, and I'm like, when was the last time you fucking played Anthem? And they're like, it's the principle. I'm like, no, it's not.
Well, it's the whole, whatchamacallit, I can't think of it right now. For the being able to archive it, to be able to
preservation,
exactly. Yeah, I can't think of the name right.
But first of all, for an online game, that's never really going to work. It's not like, how are you going to preserve like World of Warcraft? I mean, you can set up a private server, but it's still not. I mean, it's a social game. So
I mean,
that
didn't they
doesn't-
technically do that with? That's how Vanilla WoW started. Was people started doing it on their own, and then Blizzard kind of took that and said, "Okay, well, no, you could do it, but we're gonna kind of own that."
Well, no, they did it themselves.
Oh,
But
okay, okay.
it's turned out like a 1-to-1 recreation of how WoW used to be back in like 2004.
Yeah,
And also, WoW is an ever evolving game. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, preserve each patch? Patch 1.11 is my patch, or something stupid like that. Like, of course not.
yeah,
For Anthem, like if the game was still if the game was ever popular, I should say, this wouldn't be doing it. Hey, and that game has been online for 6 years.
yeah.
It's had a good run for especially for an EA game. Like, get over yourselves.
Yeah.
Like, I, even like cartridge and disc-based games, they will eventually fail. It's not like a CD is forever, or even like, so someone's trying to argue like, Nintendo can never say, oh, you can't play Yoshi's Island anymore on a Super Nintendo. It's like Nintendo might not say that, but Entropy can, because that thing has a battery in it that'll fail. And hey, the SNES isn't exactly like the most robust hardware. Like, those
But I mean,
things,
that's why you have the ROMs, right? Like, that's
right,
why you have
exactly.
the emulators, so you can play them.
I mean, yeah, but also with like PC games and even at console games, there are dozens, maybe even hundreds of games that you can't play anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, is there a huge outcry for every one of those games? No. I'm amazed they got Marvel Heroes back working. I mean, it ain't perfect, but there's a private server of that, or you can just make your own emulator and make your own like server and connect to that, like, no problem. I think the idea is, in principle, good, but it's not realistic, and especially for most of these games that are crap to begin with.
But I mean, like, isn't that if I were, somebody that, like, this is why I can't stand the live service stuff, because whenever you guys decide to take it down, that's it.
Yeah.
You can't play the game anymore.
Yep.
Right? Like,
I would say, then don't ever play a live service game.
Yeah.
Done. I mean, I only play like Infinity Nikki, kind of, and even I dropped off that hard over the past few months. But
I can get people's point, because, like, if you really spent a lot of time in that game and you want to be able to, come back to it in, say, a few years or whatever, like you could with your games, back in the day. Like, I kind of get that point of, man, I paid for now the ones that are free to play, whatever, it's free to play. Right. You didn't pay any money. You bought microtransactions. Nobody forced you to buy them. But I understand the ones that you paid the money and now all of a sudden I have no access to it. I kind of understand that in a way. And especially in an ever increasingly digital world where, you're supposed to make your digital purchases go on with you.
But digital purchases don't go on with you. I mean, Apple has revoked ebooks. The Kindle has revoked ebooks. Apple has revoked movies or even music that they've lost, like, the rights to.
No, I agree. They have, yeah.
And, just because you bought Anthem or Babylon's Fall or, Battleborn, how long are you supposed to be able to play those games? Forever? Just by yourself?
I mean, that's the thing too, is like, okay, if nobody else is playing it, who are you supposed to play against?
Yeah, like, that's the thing about Anthem, is like, yeah, I wonder what like the actual population count for that game is, like a week ago, before the story broke. Like, how many people are playing Anthem 2 weeks ago? Probably like a dozen, if that.
Right. I mean, I guess it's like, hey, people all of a sudden started playing Battlefront 2 again.
Right.
And that game was like nowhere to be talked about for how many years? And then all of a sudden now it's like, hey, somebody make a Battlefront 3. Like,
yeah, I mean, like, a meme can always happen, or just quick popular interest, but it's not sustainable. I
Right.
joked with Jens that we should platinum Anthem now.
Yeah. Why not?
Even
Right?
I mean, look at like Concord. At least they gave refunds for that, but
Yeah.
2 weeks out, maybe 3. It's like, forget it. And I think if there is enough support for a game, people will find a way to like make it work.
Yeah. That's
I mean,
true.
they have they have Halo 2 original Xbox Live working, for multiplayer.
Mm.
So, or like I said, Marvel Heroes, like that went off like a decade ago, or damn close to it, maybe like 2017 or something. And I was shocked they got like people are able to play that game now, and good
Right.
on them. Because that, like, I find it more distressing when it's an actual good game being taken offline.
Yeah.
But Anthem, I'm shedding no tears.
Well, we'll have to see what happens. It seems like that's going to be everybody's answer every time somebody tries to complain about the live service games going down. Maybe you'll be able to do something where a company can give you like the equivalent of whatever it costs you to buy the game, so you can spend it on something else that they also own or whatever. But
Right.
I kind of get it. They can't force the company to continually update this game forever. Maybe if we live in a world where AI could do it, but not when you got to use human power. No.
I had someone on Twitter. This was a few weeks ago, but she was talking. She was trying to find, uh, uh, an iOS app from 2011, and I was like, "That's gone," because in 2017, Apple switched to 64-bit architecture, so everything before that is just gone.
Right.
They could
Right.
patch it, and some apps did that, but try going back to that now. It's like, good luck.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But all right. I think that is it for the episode here. Unless
Sure.
you have anything else you wanted to bring up.
I bought the Fallout TV show on 4K.
I saw that. Yeah, nice.
That's cool. I'm getting Sinners tomorrow also.
Yeah, I watched half of it yesterday. It's pretty good. I gotta watch the other half now.
So before I got the boring half.
I got to the part right where they're like, they're like have already shunned away the trio of white people.
Right. Yep. Yeah, it gets a little more interesting after that.
Yeah. So I'll probably watch that tomorrow.
I did watch
it tomorrow. Yeah.
I did watch the Sandman show since that came back finally.
Yeah, I saw that. I've started watching. Dawn to Dawn came back, so I've been watching anime again. So yes, let's go ahead and end the show the way we normally do here with the games that are coming out this week. Some pretty good ones that are coming here. College football 26, which that was the game that I could have chosen to review that Marc was talking about, but I already reviewed the 25. It looks cool, whatever the stuff they're adding to 26, whatever, but it's just like, I don't really have time right now. That's a big game. You got to constantly be playing and stuff. We got the Missile Command Delta, which is a new version of Missile Command that's coming to Switch, PS5, and PC. That's coming on the 8th. Should mention that College Football 26 comes out on the 10th for everybody. It's out on early access right now if you get the early access thing. Everdeep Aurora, which is a cool indie Metroidvania that you play as a cat, comes out on the 10th as well for PC and Switch. Mycopunk got shown a few times at those indie showcases. It's like a roguelike multiplayer game that looks kind of interesting. Is made by a Latino team, which is pretty neat. Patapon 1-2 replay comes to PS5, Switch, and PC. Like, this is okay. So, see, this is the kind of thing that, like, I wonder if this kind of stuff will eventually come to Xbox if, say, Helldivers 2 does well. I understand not making it the first thing, like the same thing with like Freedom Wars Remastered. Like, you went to the point of you didn't publish that yourself. You had Bandai Namco do it. Like, you couldn't put that on Xbox, but you're going to put Helldivers 2, which you're publishing, on Xbox. I think that's part of like people's I guess qualms about that or whatever. But just thought that was interesting because Patapon is technically a Sony IP, Sony Japan IP.
Right.
That comes out on the 11th. Also on the 11th, out on everything, including Game Pass, because it's an Activision game. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 remaster, remake, whatever, is out. Looks like the reviews are pretty good for it.
Yeah.
So, and also there's this cool indie game called Kaizen: A Factory Story, where you're literally, it's like kind of Japanese made, and you're like literally in like a Japanese toy factory in like the 80s building old stuff.
Having to solder and Famicoms together.
Yeah, so that's coming out on the 14th as well. So some pretty neat stuff coming in this week. Obviously, I'm sure everybody is excited for Tony Hawk. Go check that out. Give Patapon 1-2 a whirl as well if you're a big fan of those. And all right, I guess thank you for watching, listening, however it is that you check this out. We appreciate you. Give us a review, leave a comment. What do you think about all the Xbox layoffs and Helldivers 2 coming to Xbox, all that? Let us know in the comments there on YouTube. And we'll see you next week, everybody.
Later.
Later.